So hi guys, this is Karthik. In this video I'm going to discuss three more binary search problems that are most oftenly asked in coding interviews. I expect that you have already seen the part 1 of this six problems. This will be the last and the final part in which I'll discuss three more problems. Two of them will be based upon 2D matrices while the last one will be binary searching for the answer. Also check out the part 1 and the essence of binary search before you watch this video. So let's get started already with the first question. So here is the problem statement. Make sure that you like, share and subscribe, and you can think about the problem now. So yeah, first of all subscribe and then think about how you can actually find the answer for this. So we were given the 2D array and there are rows in this array, row 1, row 2, so until row n, and there are m columns. Okay, so each of these rows is sorted in itself and the row consists of only zeros and ones. So row 1 could look something like this, row 2 could look something like this, and you get the idea, right? So there are only zeros and ones in this row. In each row there is just zeros and ones. Moreover, the rows are sorted. All you need to do is you need to find out which row has the maximum number of ones in it, and you can do it in big O of n squared time. You could simply iterate through every row, find out the not n square but n into m, because there are n rows and m columns. So you can obviously do it in big O of n into m time by simply iterating through the entire matrix. But we want to do better than that because this is a video on binary search. So we're going to aim to try to improve finding the number of ones in a particular row. We're going to think about that method first. So let's say that I give you the row number I. Okay, this is my row. I know there are a lot of zeros in this row followed by a lot of ones, and this is somewhat how my matrix looks. How do I find the number of ones in this particular row? That is the only question. There are a total of m elements. I just want to find out the number of ones in this ith row. So the idea is very simple. Simply do a binary search for the leftmost occurrence of 1 in this array. So do a binary search to find this thing, or do a binary search to find the rightmost 0. Both of these things will give you an idea of how to find it. So let's say I'm trying to binary search to find this particular 1 in this row. And how can I do that? I know that the leftmost occurrence of a 1 exists in the range 0 to m minus 1, right? The leftmost occurrence of 1 will be somewhere in this particular range, and let's call this particular index L. And I know that my final answer is simply going to be m minus L, the number of ones in this row. That is cool. And I know that my search range for the leftmost one is this. Now I could simply do a binary search by checking what is the element I'd made and readjusting my search range. And this is the same problem of finding the frequency of an integer in a given array, which I discussed in part 1. So if you have any doubt how you could binary search for this value L, you should watch part 1. This can be done in log of m time, where m is the number of elements in the row. And I can do this thing for each and every row. There are a total of n rows. For every row I will be taking a time log m, and overall my time complexity will be big O of n log n, and that's it. So it's a much better, a good improvement over n into m algorithm. It's n log m, and this is what the interviewers would expect. Now we can move on to the second problem. If you have any doubts, ask me in comments. So yeah, so here's the second problem, and you're given the matrix of size m cross n. I prefer n cross m, so I'll say n cross m. And you want to find whether a particular element is in the matrix or not. That's it. That is the problem statement. Moreover, there are interesting properties about the rows of this given matrix. The property is that row I in itself is sorted, and this is obeyed for every I, that the ith row will be sorted. The elements of the ith row will be sorted, and the ith row and the I plus 1th row, the last element of the ith row is going to be less than the first element of the I plus 1th row. So these properties are going to be followed among all these rows of the matrix. Now I know that we all can solve this problem in big O of n into m, because all we are supposed to do is whether a given element x is present in the matrix or not. You could simply iterate through every element and say yes or no. So a big O of n into m algorithm is easy, but that's not what the interviewer expects. You have to utilize these two properties. So if you think about these two properties for a minute, you will realize that if you were to take the rows, row 1, row 2, row till so until the nth row, and lay them out in a linear fashion and concatenate them. So you have row 1, m elements of row 1, followed by m elements of row 2, followed by m elements of row 3, and so on till the last row, nth row, m elements of row n. If you lay them out like this and concatenate them in a linear fashion, then you will receive a one-dimensional array instead of a 2D array. The interesting property about this array is going to be that this array in itself will have elements sorted. So since row 1 itself is sorted and the first element of row 2 is greater than the last element of row 1, and row 2 itself is also sorted, so row 1 concatenated with row 2 is also sorted, and so on till the nth row. So if you are able to do this efficiently, then you have a sorted array of n into m elements, and all you need to do is a binary search over this entire n into m 1D array and say whether x exists or not. We know that the time complexity of doing that is equal to log of the size of the array, so log n into m. So if I was able to concatenate them like this, then my work would have been log nm. However, this might not always be possible, so we'll think of something so that we are able to think of our matrix like a 1D array. Also guys, just in case you are having any doubts about the problem statement, let me just show you an example of how the matrices will be looking like. Also guys, this problem comes from LeetCode, so if you want to try, you can try and code it up and submit. So your matrix 1 is this. You can see that 1, 3, 5, 7, 10, 11, 16, 20. So you can see that if you concatenate these rows, you will get a sorted array. And target was 3. The answer should be true because 3 is there in the array. Similarly, for the second matrix, target is 13. 13 is not in this matrix, so output is false. And hopefully the problem statement is clear. Now let's try to actually develop the faster solution. So here is what you can do. If you have this particular matrix, I could number these cells in a way so that they look like indices of a 1D array. So given this 2D array, I could number this particular cell as 1. So this will be my first element of my 1D array. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on. 6, 12, 18, 24. Yeah. So if I wanted to binary search this particular array of these elements with the indices 1 till 24, I know that if my element does exist in the 2D array, then it is somewhere in the indices from 1 to 24. Or to be more general or specific, it will be 1, n into m. I know that if my element exists in the 1D array, it exists in one of these indices, and I'm assuming that in my brain there is a 1D array with these indices. I'm not actually developing it, but in my brain I'm thinking that this array is in fact a 1D array in my brain, and I am going to binary search this particular region. So for binary search, you will be like, okay, you need to check, you have a range low, high to search, and you would like to check the mid element, right? But by mid, what is the row and the column I should check so that in the 1D array the mid element is actually that particular row, col in this 2D array, right? How do I map this index to two indices in this matrix? This mid is the index in the array which is in my mind, okay? How do I map this particular mid to this 2D matrix, right? From mid I should be able to derive two things, a row and a column. So let's see how we can actually map your mid to a row and a column. Assume this matrix, assume 1 based indexing, you have n rows and m columns. You want to find out a particular value mid should be mapped to which row and which column. Let's have this mid here. Now if mid is less than equal to m, then it goes to the first row. If mid is not less than equal to m, but it is less than equal to 2m, it goes to the second row, and so on. So if mid is less than or equal to I times m, then mid goes to the ith row, right? Easy peasy. So I have this row. With this formula, you could simply find out row, simple divisions and a little bit plus 1, minus 1. I know you guys can do it. Let's think about the column now. How do I actually find the column? So which column will my mid actually map to? So I already know which row my mid is going into, right? So you can say that your element falls in the rth row, and then all the first r minus 1 rows are completely filled. So r minus 1 times m. These elements are already behind, right? But overall, if this is the mid element, then there must be mapped 1 minus mid positions, right? Sorry, mid minus 1 positions should already be before this guy. And I know that r minus 1 into m positions are definitely before this guy, because this is in the rth row and r minus 1 other rows were filled before I reached this row. I wanted exactly mid minus 1 people to be before this guy's index. So overall, this was what I wanted to be. I wanted these many indices before mid, and I've already got r minus 1 into m. So in this particular column, how many indices more should be before it? So let's say that there should be COL more column. So if this guy is in the COL column, so there will be COL minus 1 people before this guy in this rth row. For the first r minus 1 rows, we have already accounted this, and this thing should be equal to this one. And you could find col by a simple like simplification. So you will find it out that this guy will cancel out here, and you will have mid minus r minus 1 times m. I'm not sure if it's correct or not, but yeah, the idea is simple, that you can map your mid to a row and a column, and then simply check whether the element at that position in this grid is greater than the one you are searching for or less than, and accordingly if it's greater than it, then readjust your search range to low comma mid minus 1. If the element that you just looked at is in fact greater than the one which is in fact smaller than the one which you are searching for, then readjust to mid plus 1 comma high. And if it's equal to the one you were searching for, then you are done. So question 2 done. Let's think about the question 3. This one is the most interesting according to me. So here is the question number 3. You're given with an array, and your task is to find what is the minimum length subarray in this particular array. So you have an array of n elements, and you are given the target sum smallest. You want to find out the a subarray with the minimum length, or basically what is the minimum length of any subarray in this array, so that the sum of elements of that particular subarray is greater than or equal to s. And you would like to do this efficiently, at least something better than n square, because n square is definitely possible. Now let's think how we can solve this. Also, an important constraint here is that all the integers are positive in this array, and this is an important observation here. This will help you out to form a good solution. Now if I were to do it naively, I would think, okay, if there exists an array of size 1 so that the sum of the elements of a subarray of size 1 is greater than the given sum smallest, then I should say yes. And I could say f of x, and I could say that f of x is either a yes or a no depending upon whether there exists a subarray. So a subarray of length x so that the sum of the elements of this particular subarray is greater than smallest. So if there exists a subarray of length exactly x in your array, so that sum of any such subarray whose length is x is greater than or equal to smallest, then fx equal to 1, otherwise fx equal to 0. Alright, so hopefully this thing is clear. I have defined a function fx. Now if you think about it, then fx is a monotonic function, meaning that if f of 1 is, let's say, no, f of 2 may be no, f of 3 may be no, and finally you reach a point where f of x is a true. Okay, f of x equals to 1. Then the monotonicity is in the fact that starting from f of x, any value greater than f of x, that means f of x plus I, whereas I is any positive integer, is also going to be 1, since fx is equals to 1. And why is that so? Because fx equal to 1 means that in my array there was a subarray with length x whose sum was greater than equal to smallest. Now since let's say this was the subarray which made fx equal to 1, I could extend this subarray to either left or right and form a subarray whose length is greater than x, that means x plus 1, x plus 2 and so on, and sum is still greater than smallest because all the integers here are positive. So if I extend this subarray to either left side or right side, my sum will only increase. So the idea is that f of 1 might be false, f of 2 might be false, and so on till a point when finally you find an element x so that f of x is true, and from there you will have only true for any value greater than x. So your graph will look something like this: a false for a longer time, and finally a value appears x starting from where you have a true. And you are interested in finding the point where this function becomes true for the first time. And again, you can do a binary search. So I know if there is an answer, then my subarray size will be at least 1 and at most n, because n is the entire array. I will try out whether, let me call this low and high. I'll think about whether f of mid is true or false. I'll evaluate it, the function at mid. Depending upon if it's true or false, I'll readjust my search range. And how can I evaluate f of mid? Simply check out all the subarrays of length mid, and that will be a big O of n operation. You can do that. Checking all subarrays of a particular length and finding their sum is a big O of n operation. If you don't know how to find it, you can ask me in comments. I'll explain it elaborately. But yeah, you can do it. And let's say you will evaluate f of mid. If f of mid turns out to be false, then you know that your search range should be low plus 1 comma mid plus 1 comma high. Since mid is false, then any value less than mid will also give a false, right? F of any value smaller than mid will also give a false. And if f of mid is true, then either mid is the first value to be where the function becomes a true, or mid could be the second, third, or the last value. So you would readjust your search range to low comma mid. You will keep mid because you have to give mid a chance, because mid could be the first value where this function turns 1. And this is how you could readjust your search ranges and keep checking what big O of, like what f of mid is, and keep readjusting your search range till low becomes equal to high. Overall time complexity for this is going to be big O of n log n. Since every time you check the function at a particular value, that is a big O of n operation, and this particular entire range was log n, so binary searching that range is log n steps. So this is your time complexity. And guys, that's it. Hopefully you like these 2 videos on binary search. I'll make 2 more videos, but hopefully you like these. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe.